Perhaps you saw this viral game theory problem with the red and blue buttons. Everyone in the world has to take a private vote by pressing a red or blue button. If more than 50% of people press the blue button, everyone survives. If less than 50% of people press the blue button, only people who press the red button survive. Which button would you press? So today's geopolitical helpline is going off the rails. You are dictator of the universe. How do you solve the problem? Well, as a starting point, I would write a clearer question. I guess we will assume that there are an odd number of people in the world right now, because the question does not explain what happens when the vote is tied. From there, let's diagnose the problem. Then we can describe a solution. It turns out that the situation is not so simple. Your strategy depends on your own preferences, what you think others' preferences are, and, sadly, how stupid the rest of the world is. And, believe it or not, the general dynamics here connect to how dictators keep protesters away. Let's start with a textbook case, where everyone is only self-interested, and no one cares at all about whether anyone else survives. Then this one is mostly straightforward. You should press the red button. You survive, full stop. That is because if more than 50% of people choose blue, you are safe by virtue of their choice. And if less than 50% do, then you are safe by your own choice. In contrast, if you choose blue, then there is a world where you end up dead, namely when at least half of the other people picked red. Now, you are fine if at least 50% of the others also chose blue, but why risk it? In game theory, we call this a weakly dominant strategy. Red is always at least as good as blue, so that would be my recommendation. And at least everyone could survive under these conditions. We just need them to all pick red as well. But maybe you have a heart and you care about other people living. Or perhaps you still only care about yourself, but the world would be significantly worse for you if others died. And if you think about the scope of the problem, yeah, it would be a mess. Have you considered what would happen if 5% of the world's population vanished overnight? Just think for a second about what COVID did to the world's supply chains. It would make 2020 look like paradise by comparison. Now the answer is less clear. There are only 3 cases that you could encounter here. One is if more than half of everyone else is already choosing blue. Then your choice does not matter, and so we should not be stressing about our own decision. Second is if more than half of everyone else is already choosing red. Now you are dead if you choose blue. Red is therefore the obvious choice. Third is the rare case where exactly half of the rest are blue and exactly half are red. Now you have the power of a god. You can choose red and do a Thanos minus epsilon on the rest of the world. Or you can choose blue and keep everyone alive. Fortunately, we are examining cases where you care about other people's survival, so you would want to press blue here. Now we see that you are in a dilemma. The first case is irrelevant to your decision. So really, you ought to be weighing the chances of everyone else deadlocked at a tie versus the chances of red forming a majority. Well, a tie is highly improbable. For perspective, your vote in an election also only has tangible consequences on the outcome if the margin is within 1. In the history of US presidential elections, the closest popular vote was won by Mr. Death by Lightning himself, James Garfield. Even then, he had a 1,898 vote margin. With a current world population of 8.3 billion, even if everyone is 50-50 likely to press each button, the circumstances most likely to produce a tie, the likelihood that you would need to break the tie is roughly 1 in 114,000. So weigh that against the odds of you thinking that there will be a majority reds, and then you have your decision. Unfortunately, I cannot speak for you here because your optimal choice depends on how you value your own survival, versus having even optimistically a 1 in 114,000 chance of saving 4.15 billion people. I can give you the odds and strategic constraints, but no more. To make things further problematic here, encouraging both everyone to press red and separately everyone to press blue is a self-fulfilling prophecy. We just saw that if everyone else pressed red, then you have no choice but to press red yourself. Happily, everyone survives. But your choice to press red also reinforces everyone else's choice to press red, because they too have no other way to survive at that point. In game theory, we call this a Nash equilibrium. It is an equilibrium state because no one individually has an incentive to change their strategy, given what everyone else is doing. However, everyone pressing blue is also in equilibrium. If everyone else is pressing blue, then technically you are just fine pressing blue as well, even though technically there is no difference in the outcomes between pressing the red or blue button at that point. Having run ourselves in a bit of a circle, it might be good to have some data. I asked a very non-representative sample of viewers what they would do. As you can see, a very strong majority went blue. To see a larger example, here is a Twitter poll from Mr. Beast, hopefully the first and last time that he is referenced on this channel. Still a majority for blue, but we are cutting it a bit closer. Perhaps we should be celebrating our greater collective altruism as compared to what is certainly a much greater concentration of Gen Z. Cohort differences aside, these polls may reassure you of mankind's generosity. Nonetheless, I would not be so sure that they reflect the truth. Sorry, Jimmy, but you cannot just tell people to be honest. Don't listen to what random poll takers say. Watch what they do. Each person individually benefits by having everyone else press the blue button. We all might want collective survival, but if you can convince everyone else to take the risk of the blue button to guarantee it, you can still press the red button to ensure your safety. How do you get everyone to press the blue button? By creating the public perception that it is safe to press the blue button, because everyone else is going to do it anyway. How do you create that perception? By publicly saying that you will press the blue button, even if you do not mean it. Perhaps we should be celebrating our greater collective strategic sensibilities in lulling our friends into a false sense of security. There is one more twist in the problem worth working through here, which is critical if we want to develop a real-world solution. Remember, everyone has to press a button. Based on the reading comprehension of what I have seen on the Twitter comments, many people will misread the question. Some might be drunk as they press. Perhaps exactly one person will slip on a banana peel and press what they did not intend to press. Oh, and let's not skip the biggest problem of all. Babies. Everyone means everyone. And presumably the game will not end until every baby presses one. Sorry, parents, but they are on their own. And thus, immediately, you get a large segment of the population that will be split nearly 50-50 on red versus blue. Unfortunately, the same indeterminacy problem from before persists. If the collective expectation is that all non-babies will press the red button, no individual has an incentive to change their strategy. If you individually switch to blue, then you will die, and you will not have an effect on anyone else. Half of the babies will die as well, plus anyone else who made a mistake or did not get the memo. But you alone cannot change those outcomes. Pressing red is therefore not an inherent sign of self-centeredness. It might just reflect perceptions of what everyone else is doing. You could be the most altruistic person in the world, and it would still make sense for you to pick red instead. I have seen a bunch of comments to the effect that pressing blue is a good idea, because you would not want to live in a world where only red pressers survive. Well, you might want to rethink that. But likewise, the collective expectation that all of the non-babies will press the blue button also works for the same reason as before. And this time, we can save half of our collective future. Sadly, adding these mistakes might not help inspire cooperation. Yes, there is a greater need to save the babies, but you also have a large chunk of babies contributing to the red button mashing, thereby raising your personal risk for pressing blue. Now, you might think that we would certainly coordinate on the blue strategy, because it leads to the more efficient outcome. But efficiency is not always a good predictor when coordinating on the opposite strategy yields greater individual safety. For example, one reason that autocrats can survive in office, despite a lack of support from the public, is the public's inability to coordinate on protests. If everyone goes to the street corner, there is safety in numbers. If you go by yourself, though, you might be arrested or worse. So, absent a clear expectation that everyone else plans to take to the streets, you stay home. And the autocrat survives thanks to your complacency. However, the original question made me the dictator of the universe and tasked me with solving the problem. Well, let me give you an elegant solution. Make an announcement that we are all pressing blue, or else. Moreover, before the time of the button pressing, everyone is to emerge from their homes and make their way to the nearest public square. Anyone who does not is to be treated with suspicion, and the vague threat of physical violence. Then, when everyone is at that public square and pressing time has commenced, everyone should pull out their smartphone and document their pressing on video. Technically, the physical pressing of the button will remain private, but goodness, you had better make sure that you take a clear video of you pressing blue. And before you say, wait, this was supposed to be private, remember that I am the dictator of the world, and as dictator, I will be the one who gets to interpret what private means. Here, your pressing is indeed private, but the record of your choice afterward is public. Anyway, back to the event. I also welcome everyone to bring a weapon or two. And as soon as the private button pressing is finished, everyone is to play the video of their pressing. Everyone is also invited to check the timestamp of the video to guarantee there are no shenanigans. And if you see anyone who went red, let it be known, and let the consequences be what they must be. This, admittedly, would make for the most chaotic hour in human history. But the problem with the original setup is that there is no personal risk for pressing the red button. The public square solution flips the script. Now it would be very dangerous to press red, given the expectation that everyone else will be pressing blue. I am sure that a mistake or two will still be made. I hate those banana peels. But I am confident that we will not lose half our babies in the mess. If you found this video fun, well, believe it or not, this was all that I used to make back in the day. Stupid war. I even thought I was going to get back to it within a couple of weeks of the invasion of Ukraine. I was so naive back then. Here is an entire playlist of similar games, including some never actually published due to the channel's change in priorities. Most of them have clearer right answers than this one. And if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.